Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us today. This is part of our Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition Lunch and Learn. And today's Lunch and Learn is about energy efficiency. And we have three amazing experts who participated in the policy and participating in implementation of energy efficiency programs, which I always refer to as the quiet giants of clean energy, is energy efficiency. They get so much done and for such a cost-effective amount. And yet when we think of clean energy, we think about wind turbines and solar panels and not all of these great energy efficiency measures. So we've got on Nick Dreher from the Midwest Energy Efficiency Alliance, Laura Goldberg from the Natural Resources Defense Council, and Cynthia Segura from the Citizens Utility Board, who are going to talk to you today about energy efficiency. So we will have this program recorded and available later on YouTube. If folks want to put in the chat, just introduce themselves and where they're from. But I'm going to kick it off to the presenters. And just for folks, I am hopping off this call, and Ayana Simba from our staff is going to take questions and read them from the chat or call on you. And Jeff Sheldon is on to take care of tech needs. So again, thanks so much for joining us today and for learning about these issues with us. Thank you.
Great. Thanks so much, Jen and IUC folks for having us. We're going to kick it off with just some introductions. And I'm sharing my screen, so I can't see the chat, but it sounds like IUC is going to monitor that. So thank you. So this is our session on energy efficiency. We're going to give some overview, some background on efficiency in Illinois, as well as do some updates around efficiency as it relates to the Climate Equitable Jobs Act. So real quick at the top here, although please introduce yourself in the chat as well. Presenters are going to introduce ourselves here. So I'm Laura Goldberg. I'm with the Natural Resources Defense Council, as Jen said, NRDC. I use she, her pronouns, and I work on a project at NRDC called Energy Efficiency for All, which focuses at the intersection of affordable housing and energy efficiency. And I'm our Midwest Director for Energy Equity and Affordability. Nick, you want to introduce yourself next?
Yeah, sounds great. Hey everyone, thanks for having us. I'm joining you from a conference that I'm attending in Nashville, so glad to be here. My name is Nick Dreher. I'm the Policy Director at the Midwest Energy Efficiency Alliance. It's a nonprofit that focuses on advocacy and education on the value of energy efficiency across a 13-state territory. I use he, him pronouns. And I've been working in Illinois energy efficiency policy for the last 5-6 years, and we'll be drawing on that. So happy to answer any questions when we have those opportunities here. Cynthia?
Hi everyone, my name is Cynthia Segura and I'm with Citizens Utility Board, or CUB. We are a nonprofit advocacy or consumer advocacy group that focuses on utilities. So we do work in utility oversight, but we also do a lot of consumer education and outreach. I am a carbon-free buildings coordinator, so I'm a part of CUB's outreach team. So I'll be talking about the residential energy efficiency programs later on today.
Great. Okay, Nick, I'm going to kick it to you to start us out here, and just feel free to let me know when to go to the next slide.
Perfect. Yeah, next slide. And as I noted, here's our agenda for the day. And after each of these sections, we'll pause for questions. We want to make sure you all have an opportunity to dig in if you have particular items that you wanted us to cover. I'm going to go over a very general, very brief Energy Efficiency 101, and then give a little bit of history of how Illinois, the Illinois energy efficiency industry has developed over the last 10-15 years. And then Laura will discuss the Climate Equitable Jobs Act overhaul of aspects of electric energy efficiency, and then Cynthia will discuss program specifics. Next slide. Great. So at a very high level, for those not familiar with energy efficiency in the day-to-day, energy efficiency is doing the same or more, just using less energy. It's not turning off the light switch. It's finding a better product that uses less energy to give you light. Turning off light switch is energy conservation, and I would say energy efficiency is that advanced technologies to ensure we're not using more than we need to use. So it could be a device, it could be a process improvement or behavior change. In Illinois, there are energy efficiency programs are delivered through the utility as direct install, maybe kits, light bulbs, faucet aerators, et cetera. Prescriptive kind of measures, like standard measures that new equipment, a new furnace, like that, or custom and tailored measures, maybe for more complicated multifamily buildings or commercial or industrial applications. All of these programs are paid for through our bills. We pay for these programs, and so we all have access to them and should avail ourselves of them. Typically, there is the required customer copay. This can be on a different levels depending on the program, depending on the measure, and we do have zero copay for income eligible programming. Those offerings that going to under-resourced households and communities. Success and how the state looks at this is we measure savings with the number of kilowatt hours or therms of natural gas that would have otherwise been needed to perform the task function, and taken together, that saved electricity or natural gas is considered an energy resource, and particularly the saved electricity. You can put that up against what the utility may be planning on a generation side and try to offset that and reduce the need for new generation by bundling all of the various energy efficiency related resources. Next slide. I'll move a little quicker, but I wanted to start with some of that background.
Sorry, there's a little delay. There we go.
No worries. So a couple of important terms to know. EE measure, that is the literal product, energy efficiency product, the light bulb, the insulation, the heat pump, the air source heat pump to replace a furnace, or customer activities, behavioral actions, the bill insert that tells you how your neighbors are doing and how you're doing compared to them. A program is a collection of these activities or products, and so it's a bigger kind of suite of offerings for and includes a compilation of behavioral changes, HVAC more holistically, and various controls and other advanced mechanisms. The EE portfolio is a group of programs proposed by the utility, negotiated with various interveners and industry interested parties, and then approved finally by the Illinois Commerce Commission, and kind of set in stone. Great. You can go. Yeah, you can go on. Why energy efficiency? So I'm not going to read all of this. I encourage you to take a look, but it reduces pollution, improves health, and saves money. So bill savings right away. You've got indoor air quality related improvements when done right, but also emissions reductions, because we don't need to burn as much fossil fuels to generate the electricity we're reducing use. It creates clean energy jobs. Over 70% of Illinois' clean energy workforce, renewable jobs, renewable energy jobs, energy efficiency jobs, 70% are energy efficiency jobs. The mom and pop contractors, the various kind of services and other other equipment manufacturers, et cetera, who are working in the energy efficient space. And then it reduces energy burden and really improves energy affordability. And so this is really important as we're looking at programmatically historically excluded communities, historical and current discrimination against low income or under-resourced Black, Latinx, and Indigenous households and communities. Energy efficiency is that opportunity to kind of right size and reduce use and reduce bills. Next slide. Just wanted to give a snapshot of kind of where Illinois sits. This is the most recent, this is a 2020 ACEEE energy efficiency scorecard. Illinois is definitely in an upper tier and doing quite well, but this gives you a sense of how other states are doing. Minnesota is doing quite a bit as well, and so is Michigan. So thanks, Laura. Next slide. Okay, little history lesson. Let me just see how I'm doing. Okay, I think I'm okay. So when we talk about energy efficiency programs in Illinois and the fact that utilities run them, this isn't just by happenstance. We've had a series of different laws that have come into place in Illinois that have required a certain amount of energy savings to be achieved by the utilities. So you set the requirement at the utility level, and then they enlist all these various actors and do design of programs to ensure that they can achieve those energy savings through energy efficiency programs. So in Illinois, our energy efficiency resource standard has energy savings goals, and that started back in 2007 for the electric utilities and was amended in 2009 to include gas energy savings goals. Then in 2016, the Future Energy Jobs Act passed. Now, prior to that, we measured success, or utilities measured success, on an annual basis. So did we save a certain percentage of annual electric retail sales in this year, and then over the course of the 4-year plans? When the Future Energy Jobs Act came in, it kind of shifted that framing to say, instead of looking just myopically at 1 year, let's look 15, 20 years into the future. So 15 years into the future. So they said, let's create this cumulative persisting annual savings, which just sets an overall target to 2030 under CEJA. And then that will kind of dictate what the annual applicable incremental goals will be for the utilities, and kind of that'll determine where they're at for those individual years and individual 4-year planning cycles. So that's the driver, setting those goals. And then CEJA, which Laura will go into in more detail, the goals were just extended, and it continues our emphasis and our priority as a state on longer term measures and saving energy efficiency over a longer life. And as we showed on the, you can go to the next one, I'm just as a transition, as we showed in the CEJA scorecard map, other states have ramped up over the same kind of timeline. Minnesota's actually been doing energy efficiency longer as a requirement since like 1990, which was firmed up in 2007 as well, and was just kind of re-upped and increased. So Michigan also in 2016, just like Illinois with CEJA, has passed laws recently, really increasing their investment in energy efficiency. These are the types and categories of programs to think about. I won't walk through all these little items, but single family homes, commercial buildings, income qualified or low income and public housing and facilities, multifamily kind of, is that Venn diagram between the first 3 boxes here, affordable multifamily in particular, and then industrial, kind of more custom projects. Slide. And then this is a sense, this kind of tracks with the policy changes. Wanted to give a sense of scale. The first 3 are electric utility spending and savings. And I wanted to give a snapshot of right after the law passed in 2007. In 2008, $9 million statewide spent on electric energy efficiency programs. And then even just that next year, it ramped up to 46 million, almost 47 million. Those are actual numbers. In 2021, the planned spending roughly is $456 million for electric energy efficiency. So the policy and like the emphasis and priority of energy efficiency has definitely ramped up over time, and wanted to give that sense. And you can see that there's commensurate increases in the actual savings numbers as well on megawatt hours. And then the gas data is a little fuzzier, it's a little harder to track, but you can see a similar huge increase in the amount of spending based on when laws were passed. So 2009 is prior to the amended kind of requirements for natural gas, and now look where we are, and it's huge. Okay, next slide. Great, so that's my bit. Any questions?
Yeah, call for questions. You can unmute yourself or throw it in the chat in terms of just kind of that history of energy efficiency in Illinois.
And if there are any terms or anything I said that was esoteric or just didn't jargon or didn't make sense, let me know.
Yeah, I don't see anything in the chat, but I do have a question myself. I saw like up there, like to me, there seems to be like, I would think that, oh, it'd be like the East Coast and the West Coast that are like, oh, like the top three, but it's kind of like spread all across the country. So I guess what is the general reasoning behind why some of these states are scoring higher in energy efficiency? Is it more based like just because it's a political will, or I mean, obviously I know like in the case of California, it's been a huge issue, but what is kind of the explanation behind some of these different states ranking higher than others?
Yeah, that's a great question. I would chalk a lot of it up to political will. In the Midwest, you can see outside of Illinois, Michigan, and Minnesota, maybe a little Wisconsin, it's pretty weak, pretty far behind. And that's not to say, I mean, Indiana, Iowa, Missouri have a pretty good track record of energy efficiency spending and savings. They just don't have a required energy savings target that really drives how much savings need to happen each year. Instead, energy efficiency is used there as like a customer engagement, reliability, resiliency mechanism to kind of right size their own generation needs and provide that customer service. So, you know, California has like a 4 to 5% annual electric savings requirement. We just aren't close to that. Illinois is closer to 2.5%, and that's going to ramp up over time, but that's very much lower. And you know, Massachusetts, because of the political will there, have linked emissions reductions to the success of their energy efficiency standard. So it's not just about energy savings; it's about climate change. We don't have, you know, in the Midwest, which is a lot more conservative. We have, 7 Republican trifectas for state government. You know, even where we have a lot of Democratic governors, they're all Republican legislatures except for the Illinois and then the divided legislature in Michigan or Minnesota. So politically, it's difficult, and a lot of these are partisan issues, right? Energy efficiency gets lumped in with the other things that, you know, folks are nervous about for some reason, even though it saves money and saves their constituents money. Hopefully that helps.
If I could just add too, we can share the actual scorecard. I couldn't find if the 2021 one was out yet. Usually these come out, you know, the following year because that's when all the data comes in. But this scorecard has also been evolving. You know, some of the things Nick mentioned, just like the policy and the standards around efficiency standards were sort of the original basis, but now there's different sections around low income, around climate change, around different factors that go into efficiency programs. I know they're looking to add an electrification piece in their next scorecard. So it is something that's evolving. I know NRDC plays a role in terms of like how this is captured and measured and review these scorecards every year. So, you know, I think that's important to name that there's a lot of factors in terms of what makes a good or bad efficiency program or policy. And I do think the scorecard has been evolving in a good way to better account for multiple factors. But I think sharing the scorecard will be the best way to get every detail that goes into what's analyzed here. And I do see some things coming up in the chat. Kim, did you want me to go to that budget slide? Is that what you were looking for? And did you have a question on that, or did you just want to look at it?
Sorry, I didn't know I could mute myself. I just wanted to look at it for a second. No question.
There is a question from Bill in the chat about conflicts between EE or like securing the envelope of a structure and indoor air quality, ventilation, leakage. Yeah, there's a balance. I mean, you have to ensure that the ventilation is good enough to ensure you're not, confining yourself into a lucite box, and so there's that. There's also, I know that studies have been done to ensure, the radon, the existence of radon and other things aren't exacerbated by creating a vacuum and closing a space without, and making it more efficient through more insulation and air sealing, et cetera. And you just need to have the appropriate level of ventilation to ensure that the air quality indoors is improved. I hope that gets to what you were asking about, but there are other ways to increase indoor air quality through, maybe fuel switching or air source heat pumps that do some of the combustion outside of the home. So.
Yeah, and I'll speak to some of the health and safety dollars that have been approved in CEJA, which also help to address, this existing indoor air quality or other health issues in a home that will also be important to address before a home is sealed. But there are measures and calculations done when a home is sealed to ensure it's not overly sealed or to ensure it does strike that balance in terms of the safe level of sealing. But it is a true statement to say, ensuring that when we're sealing homes or doing retrofits in homes that if the air quality is not good, there could be problems. So having to do those in tandem and do healthy homes work at the same time is really important. Yeah, air exchangers could help too. Great questions. Okay, keep them coming. I'm going to keep us moving. Thank you, Nick, for the overview. And so I will next start just talking through some of the specifics that are in CEJA. So just starting here, that CEJA does a lot of things. So the Climate Equitable Jobs Act, it was passed by the legislature in September. And for those who were here at the top, I think Jen named efficiency as sort of the quiet champion or quiet hero of some of this work. And I think that's true. It's just an essential foundation for all of the important pieces that passed in this climate bill in particular. So we will go into some more details on that, but just wanted to highlight. So this slide just gives an overarching overviews of the many efficiency pieces and related pieces in CEJA, although I will say we won't go into detail in every single one of these. We'll go into a lot of them. So the CEJA is Senate Bill 2408. If anybody who wants to look up the details of it, as I said, it was passed in September. I think some of the biggest things to take away from here is it extends efficiency. It extends the standard that Nick was talking about that requires Illinois utilities to provide energy efficiency services. The bill was focused on electric utilities. We did try to have it focus on gas as well, but unfortunately those changes didn't make the final cut, something that ICJC and efficiency groups will be working on in future legislation. So both FEJA and CEJA just focused on electric efficiency. And it extends programs beyond 2030, and we'll talk more about that on the next slide. One sort of negative thing that happened in FEJA is it excluded or exempted large customers from being a part of the program. That exclusion went away. There's now an opt-in process for some of, or opt-out process for some of those customers. And any sort of like large municipal or public-facing utility or public-facing entity is now required to be back in the program, so they can access all of the efficiency offerings that utilities provide. There's some increases to some of the low income energy efficiency requirements. Now, a lot of the workforce provisions in the legislation do also apply to energy efficiency. And the rest of this we'll talk through, except just also wanting to highlight here, there are some new financing programs available, including one called the Equitable Energy Upgrade Program, which can be used for energy efficiency as well as solar. So just some quick highlights here. So starting to dig in more. So sorry for this very technical term. Nick said it earlier, cumulative persisting annual savings, shorthand for CPAS. I think the biggest takeaway here is what Nick had already spoken to. Savings goals used to be based on an annual basis. They now are looking at the long-term life of efficiency, which is really important if you think about how long a light bulb is bringing savings, how long a change to a more efficient air conditioner, furnace, electric heat pump would provide in your home. It's not just 1 year of savings. There's a lot of savings that last over the lifetime of a product. And so this is a better way to capture that long-term savings, and also incentivizes utilities to invest in measures that have longer-term savings. A light bulb, for example, has a lot of savings in that first year, but the life of that, it reduces over time. The savings, the persisting nature of the savings go down, while other products, more major measures, whole building measures, as the bill refers to, like insulation or sealing cracks in your home or building, those things have a longer life and longer savings over time. So that's really the purpose of this. And while CEJA created this new way of measuring efficiency savings, it extended it only till 2030. So what CEJA does is extends it beyond 2030. So now utilities are required in Illinois to meet these long-lived savings goals and to do energy efficiency for the foreseeable future. So a really exciting piece to just ensure that energy efficiency is happening in Illinois forever, essentially. And there's some other pieces in here around just some return on equity and more incentives for the utilities to invest in the ways we want them to. And they really have to reach these targets. And if they don't, there's some carrots and sticks involved if they don't reach them or if they exceed them. So want to dig in, and this is a big area of focus for my work, into some of the low income or income qualified energy efficiency programs. So these are programs that are specifically tailored and created to reach low income single family and multifamily homes and buildings in Illinois. CEJA required the first minimums of spending for both Ameren and ComEd, and CEJA just increases those. So increases for Ameren, they have to spend at least $13 million of their budget on low income efficiency programs, and ComEd has to spend 40. I do want to note, though, that in terms of what was just approved in their most recent efficiency plans is much greater than these minimums. So really just want to emphasize that these were floors in the law, not ceilings. And we are seeing utilities, due to a lot of great advocacy from groups in Illinois, going far and above those minimum requirements. So Ameren will be investing likely over 30 million with new increases from CEJA, and ComEd will be investing over 77 million. Another aspect of the low income programs that was expanded and improved in CEJA is this requirement around whole building retrofit. So this relates a lot to those long-term savings goals I mentioned. If you've ever had a utility come out and do work on your home, they may have done some what are called like direct install measures. So they might do some lighting upgrades, give you a new faucet aerator, give you a shower head, which are all really great things, but they're sort of the low-hanging fruit of efficiency. And so this is really emphasizing and pushing those deeper whole building measures that I mentioned, like insulation, air sealing, heat pumps, newer long-lasting technology that will be really important for the whole building or whole home. So 80% of those budgets above have to be dedicated to those whole building work, There's also what's called the statewide low-income energy efficiency accountability committee that sort of expanded and evolved in CEJA. So this is a committee that can include any interested stakeholders, any interested people that want to help directly inform and assist in the design and evaluation of these programs. So it's a forum, that anyone can participate in, especially encouraged for really community-based groups to participate in. So you can hear about these programs on an ongoing basis, help understand what they look like on the ground, and help inform what they look like in the future. And so the updates here are really to ensure it is equitable and accessible and has direct leadership from community-based organizations, and gives the ICC some oversight, the Illinois Commerce Commission that regulates utilities, some oversight in terms of the budget and just overall the committee. So just a couple more low-income pieces here. So one of the most exciting things the law does around efficiency is requires utilities to do electrification within their efficiency programs now. So they could switch a customer's appliances over from either propane or gas or other fuels to electricity. And related to some of that indoor air quality, where we're talking about electricity is a really important way, both indoor and outdoor air quality, to connect to more renewable and cleaner sources. And it requires that 25% of the electrification savings come from low-income customers. And then lastly, there's some pieces in the law that require a bundling of low-income efficiency programs with other programs and services that are offered to low-income or under-resourced communities, such as low-income solar programs, bill assistance programs, and weatherization. Okay, I'm going to try to speed up here to make sure we have ample time for questions and Cynthia to speak. So one last piece, although this does also relate to the low-income programs, is health and safety funding. So we alluded to this before. This is specifically funding to help prevent deferrals from efficiency work. So say you have a contractor come out to your home to do energy efficiency, and they find you have a bunch of wiring issues around your equipment, you have asbestos, you have mold. Typically, a utility would have to just walk away. They wouldn't be able to do efficiency work until you fix those things. And there's sort of a recognition here that low-income households and under-resourced communities in particular probably don't have the means to fix those things or the capacity, and it will hurt and hamper the ability of efficiency upgrades. So there is direct funding in CEJA that requires the utilities to address some of these issues. So 15% of their low-income budgets are dedicated to fixing some of these health and safety issues. There's some examples of what those things could be, like mold, asbestos, wiring, exhaust fans, improper venting, to go in tandem with the efficiency work. Started to speak to this, but there is just overall, outside of just the low-income programs, this requirement around electrification. So utilities can now promote measures that electrify space heating, water heating, cooling, drying, cooking, and industrial processes. So just some examples of the type of categories of equipment that can be replaced. And there is a piece that says this has to be done provided that the electrification measure reduce the total energy consumption at the premises. So if you're getting switched from a different fuel to electricity, it still has to provide efficiency. You still have to see that energy consumption go down. And the utilities can count savings they get from doing this electrification work towards those savings goals we talked about. And this is just a little more detail on how it's outlined in the law, just certain percentages that the utilities can provide around electrification. So there's a bit of a ramp up period in this first 4-year plan. 5% per year can come from electrification, then 10%, then 15%. So just some ramp up time for them to start doing this within their programs. So another thing the law does related to efficiency, but not directly tied to the utility efficiency programs, is requires a board in Illinois called the Capital Development Board to create and adopt a stretch code. This is a building code that will allow municipal projects to achieve more efficiency in their buildings. The word stretch is really emphasized that it would go beyond what is already required code in the state to go further. And it is sort of like a opt-in, allow process. So that stretch code still needs to be created, but there are some parameters in the law in terms of how much efficiency and like how the level of efficiency that would be required within that stretch code. And the utilities are allowed to claim some savings if they work with different municipalities to adopt and apply to the code. So this would apply to building codes, appliance standards, and some other pieces of new or rehabbed buildings in Illinois. Nick, is there anything more you want to say on this? I just want to leave you space as you're more well-versed in speaking to this than I am.
Not really. This is new and it needs to be, this specific provision doesn't have a lot of details associated with it. I think it's an exciting prospect. It's something California does. It's something a couple other states in the country do. And that's why they have such higher goals, because there are more ways. They also allow their utilities more ways to meet those goals. So this is just another kind of tool in the tool belt on how utilities can achieve these savings, and we can have broader, like new construction that's more efficient across the board.
Great, thanks, Nick. And last slide from me, and then we'll go to some questions before turning to Cynthia. So just wanted to name the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition, which is partially sponsoring this event today, along with Illinois Environmental Council, has an energy efficiency work group, which Cynthia, Nick, and I are all involved in, and just wanted to name some of the things we're working on now in terms of implementation of the law. So there are some negotiations underway right now with ComEd and Ameren to update their 4-year efficiency plan to be in compliance with the law. We're working and will be working in some energy efficiency work group spaces like the Low Income Efficiency Accountability Committee. We're working to do more efficiency 101s in education, collaborating with other groups that are doing implementation in Illinois. And we meet every Tuesday at 1 Central. So if anybody wants to join, if you're currently an ICJC member, or if you're not, we can get you an application to be a part of the Illinois Clean Jobs Coalition. Okay, so any questions on the CEJA, CEJA details? Started going too far, there we go. Feel free to unmute, or you can type your questions in the chat.
I have another question. So how was, I know you mentioned like some of this kind of translated into utilities having some form of like their own energy efficiency program. So I'm wondering, like with CEJA, how does that intersect with some of the existing programs? Like I personally always get berated with these messages, this mail from Clean Choice Energy and like things like that. So how does CEJA interact? Like, will they just be like, will these, I don't know if I'm like, my question's not making 100% sense, but like, yeah, how is CEJA going to intersect with those existing programs? Will those still be allowed, or will they need to make changes to those existing programs? I don't know, something kind of like along the lines of that.
I can speak to that. So that Clean Choice Energy, that is what's called an alternative supplier. So in Illinois, we do have the choice to, we have electric supply choice. We have gas supply choice as well, which means that we can either be with an alternative supplier or we can be with the default utility supply. So whether that's your ComEd or your Ameren, your NICOR. And that utility default supply is actually a rate that's set by the Illinois Power Agency, and it is passed through to consumers at no charge, but alternative suppliers are not held to that same standard. But Clean Choice Energy is basically what happens is that they purchase renewable energy credits with some of the money that you are paying them, and basically they're paying for those environmental benefits, right? And that's to say that that's completely different than community solar, which we're not going into today. But I could go off about alternative suppliers and green plans, but basically there's not a lot of oversight as to where those renewable energy credits come from. So we just don't know. So if you are considering a plan like that, there's 2 things I would be aware of. 1, where those renewable energy credits are coming from, and 2, two, if you're paying more money for that type of offering. But that's completely different than energy efficiency. So what Laura, like those programs that I'll be talking about today and energy efficiency, those are typically offered through the utility or even a state program. But Clean Choice is an alternative supplier, which is a completely different realm. But I hope that kind of answered your question. They're kind of related, kind of not, I don't know.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was very, very confused. So that helps a lot. Thank you. And then I know we have, I know we're coming down on time, but I know we have a question from Jay, and we also have Kim on the stack. Jay, I'll just read your question out loud, and if you have anything else to add, feel free. But Jay was asking, any info on how Illinois Low-Income Home Weatherization Assistance Program figures in here?
Yeah, that's a great question. So Cynthia is going to talk a little bit about what is offered through home weatherization, but I'll just say, CEJA didn't make any explicit changes to weatherization. It did talk about coordination with the utility efficiency programs. Technically, the Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity, the state energy office, oversees weatherization. So it's separate from the state utility programs. But, and we didn't go into detail on this because it's a little bit confusing, but both CEJA and CEJA require some sort of weaving together of those funds because they are similar programs and intentions. So there is an explicit effort to deliver those funds together. So a lot of the same contractors and implementers that do home weatherization program work are involved with the utility efficiency funds, and there's some blended funds to do that work in a collaborative way. And there's more federal and state money coming down, and hopefully coming down soon for weatherization, which will just be able to serve more homes or do deeper work in homes and buildings.
Thanks, Laura. And then I see that Kim is on stack.
I just passed so we can move on. I put that in the chat. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Kim. And I saw Nick starting to answer the question, good question from Joyce around, does this pertain to muni and co-op providers? No, not explicitly. None of these sort of efficiency requirements apply to them. But there are, I think we mentioned some pieces about like municipalities being involved in the programs again. So they could choose to do work on like municipal buildings in their territory. So there's some sort of, kind of loose tie there, but none of these requirements apply to like a municipal or co-op utility doing energy efficiency. So that's definitely a gap. It's something we had wanted to see addressed in this law, but had trouble working in politically. So something to definitely come back to. And thanks for naming that. Okay. Please keep the questions coming. We'll answer in the chat as we go and then leave some time at the end, but I will turn it to Cynthia.
Alrighty, yeah. So I will be going over residential program specifics, and we'll kick it off on theme with IHOP right here. We're talking about the Illinois Home Weatherization Program. And like Laura was explaining just a little bit ago, this is a state-run program, so it is available throughout the state. And if any of you are familiar with what's called LIHEAP, or the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program, which is a form of utility assistance throughout the state, it is run in a similar manner in the sense that you can apply through what's called a community action agency, and it is administered by the Illinois Department of Commerce and Economic Opportunity. So basically, IHOP, or Illinois Home Weatherization Assistance Program, makes grants available up to $16,000 for for replacement of appliances, weatherization, so air sealing, insulation, HVAC repair or replacement. There's repair or replacement of your water heater, as well as other load reduction measures. So maybe your refrigerator, swapping out your refrigerator, or repair, or lighting. Basically anything to make your home more energy efficient. And the idea there is, once your home is more energy efficient and more weatherized, that, your bills down the road are going to be decreased as well. So it's going to be, decreasing people's energy burden, as well as, allowing those folks to access those health and safety measures, as well as making their homes more comfortable. So what happens is, if you are eligible, then an energy assessor will actually record information about the home and use a computerized energy audit program to basically determine which weatherization measures should be prioritized, and a contractor will come in and complete those weatherization measures, as well as those health and safety measures. As for income qualification, it is dependent on your household size. That threshold is at or below 200% of the federal poverty level. I also do want to highlight that as a requirement of the program, you have to show either proof of ownership of the home or landlord consent. So I want to highlight that if you are a renter, or if someone is a renter and is interested in this program, they can still access this program. They just need to reach out to their landlord for consent, and so that they can comply with the program requirements. And then, like I mentioned, you do apply through a community action agency. So there are about 35 community action agencies throughout the state. These are dependent on, region or county. It depends on where you are. I feel like, or downstate, there's community action agencies that serve, multiple counties, and up north, some of them are more county based. And so basically you would apply through that individual community action agency to submit that application. And I should say that when you get these slides, there are links to that website. But if anyone has any trouble finding or locating their community action agency, CUB is definitely here to help if you need help, accessing how to apply or reach this program. Next slide, please.
Just want to flag the comment from Bill, which I think relates to this slide. If statewide includes muni and co-op communities. Yeah, so this program would be accessible if you had a municipal or a co-op utility.
Not to get too much into the weeds, but the funding of the program, it's braided in the sense that there's state and federal funds, but also the utility money going into the program. So, but yes, it does cover muni co-ops. Next slide, please. Thank you. Okay, so next I'm going to touch on the home energy assessment. This is an offering by ComEd in partnership or in joint with the other gas utilities. So that's your Peoples Gas, your North Shore, or your NICOR gas. So as utility ratepayers, we actually have a energy efficiency programs line on our electric and gas bills. So those charges actually go to fund some of these programs. And so this is basically a free personal assessment of your home for energy saving opportunities and the installation of energy saving products. Currently, they have a virtual or an in-person assessment, so depending on your comfortability. If you decided to go virtually, you would actually go on a video call with an assessor, and they can walk through your home with you, and you would be able to install those, or they would mail you those energy saving products, and you would walk you through on how to install those. And then if it was in person, they would actually go through your home physically and install those measures for you. Some of the products that are included in this offering are, programmable thermostats, LED light bulbs, low flow, high pressure shower heads, faucet aerators, hot water pipe installation. So this is very much the direct install kits type of program that Nick was referring to. And then I just also wanted to note here that you can actually purchase other additional energy saving products at a discount through this program as well. You can either purchase a smart thermostat. There are 3 different models of smart thermostats available at a discount through this, or you can purchase an advanced power strip, which is basically supposed to combat vampire power. So your TV and your monitors or entertainment systems, they're still drawing power from those outlets, even if those systems are turned off. So that advanced power strip just senses when that is happening and basically controls the electricity coming from your from your outlet, so that you're not wasting all of that electricity from vampire power. Next slide, please. Okay, so now Ameren does have a similar offering, a home energy assessment. I do want to note that this is available to income qualified Ameren gas or electric customers. So this is not, regardless of household income, but it is income qualified. That income threshold is dependent on the county and household size of that household. But it is a similar concept in the sense that you are receiving that personalized energy assessment and those energy saving opportunities and the direct install of these energy saving products. So the LED light bulb, shower head, faucet aerators, your smart thermostat. And I do want to note that since this is an income qualified program, you do have the option to get a smart thermostat through this, as well as those health and safety, weatherization measures as well. So that's your air sealing, your insulation, your ventilation. And then in order to actually schedule an appointment, there's an online application, which I put a little link in there for that. Next slide, please. Okay, so next I'm going to be talking about accessing rebates. I'm not going to go into specifics as to what rebates there are or how much there are, each rebate is, but there are rebates for a lot of things. So your smart thermostats, maybe your heat pump water heater, clothes dryer, electric dryer, lighting, dehumidifier, etc. But I just wanted to highlight ways that you can go ahead and access those rebates. But the first step there is to check the eligibility requirements of that rebate. So checking that whatever product you're interested in qualifies for that, said rebate or incentive. So one way to access rebates is through Marketplace. So there is a ComEd Marketplace and an Ameren Marketplace where you can actually directly purchase those products. So that include, though it's not so much your appliances, it's more your smart thermostat, your dehumidifier, lighting, water saving products, etc. But not your appliances, I should mention. But another way to access those rebates is through instant coupons at stores. So you can go ahead and download those coupons ahead of time, and then when you go to the store, you can actually use those for whatever energy saving product you're interested in. But I do want to note that there are instant in-store discounts available for your lighting products, meaning that if you wanted to go purchase an Energy Star certified LED light bulb or whatnot, that you can actually go to the store itself and you don't actually need to download a coupon, but it will say, ComEd or Ameren energy efficiency at the store. So just keep an eye out for that. And it's just good to know that, those coupons or that discount is applied instantly in the store. Another avenue to receive, to receive those rebates or discounts is through an online rebate application. So that's when you actually purchase that said product ahead of time. Within a certain amount of days, you submit that rebate application online to get that rebate. And then I did include those contact numbers for the electric utilities for their residential incentives. Next slide, please. All right, so now highlighting multifamily energy efficiency. This is very similar to the single family home energy assessments I was talking about, in the sense that you are receiving that personalized, performance overview of your energy consumption and energy saving recommendations. And I also wanted to highlight here again that the ComEd offering is in partnership with gas utilities as well. But this is different in the sense that you do receive additional products for your common area spaces. So for individual units, you'll still receive those LED light bulbs, the shower heads, faucet aerators, hot water pipe installation, but there are additional offerings for the common spaces. So that includes, occupancy sensors, LED exit signs, programmable thermostats for the common areas, et cetera. And then just to kind of highlight this again, the multifamily energy efficiency offering is regardless of income of the owner or its occupants. But if you are a renter, or if you know someone who's a renter who's interested in receiving this or participating in this energy efficiency program, it is important to go through the landlord or property manager. That is the way that you have to actually apply through the program. So for the ComEd Northern Illinois territory, there is a number to call. And for Ameren, there's an online application to fill out for that. But so if you are a renter, reach out to your landlord and let them know of this free offering, and hopefully they can apply. Next slide, please. Okay, and then I just wanted to highlight a few of the income eligible programs or income qualified programs as well. So the first two I'll talk about are those ComEd single and multifamily retrofits. So this is like an assessment and retrofit for income qualified homes. That income threshold is at 80% or at or below 80% of the area median income. So it's similar in the sense that you'll still have that energy assessment that you received in the as a part that is the same offering as part of the non-income eligible program, but there are additional offerings as well. For one, you have the option of getting a programmable or a smart thermostat, as well as weatherization measures. So that includes, the insulation and air sealing of, attics and walls, and sealing air leaks in the ducts and whatnot. So the weatherization and smart thermostats are included in those. And then if interested in major upgrades, there's major incentives for things like boiler replacement or tune-ups, HVAC system replacement, heat pumps, air conditioners, a list goes on. And then that bullet under the ComEd single family retrofits, I wanted to highlight the Energy Savers program. This is administered by the Chicago Bungalow Association. So this is a utility program. So this is in a joint partnership with ComEd and People's Gas, but it is a little bit more niche in the sense that it provides those weatherization services, but the income guidelines or just the eligibility guidelines are a little bit more narrow than the other programs. So one, the participants have to be at or below 80% of the area median income, and the house has to be a vintage single family home built at least 50 years ago. So it has to be an older vintage home, and the house must be occupied by its owner and located in the city of Chicago. But that includes weatherization services. So that's your attic insulation, your furnace or your boiler clean and tune-ups, your high efficiency, ventilation work, weather stripping, etc. And then I also wanted to highlight that IHOP eligibility. So if interested in income eligible energy efficiency, the Illinois Home Weatherization Program is a great place to start. And I would recommend checking with your community action agency on if you are eligible and if you can apply. And then I highlighted that Ameren Home Energy Assessment. I did talk about that in a past slide, but just didn't want to forget about that there. Next slide, please. All right, and these are the programs that I talked about today. I kind of wanted to have them all on one page, so it's a little bit more consolidated for folks. They're also embedded in the presentation as well. Next slide, please. And then that's the conclusion of my presentation, but I did list some numbers to remember. So the Illinois Commerce Commission does have a consumer hotline if you needed to file a complaint on your utility. The protocol there is that you do reach out to that utility first, and then you can, if you're not satisfied with that, you can go ahead and use that consumer hotline. CUB also has a consumer hotline. We run this hotline during business hours on Monday through Friday, and folks can call that if they have any sort of utility related issue or question. We can connect people with resources. We can, let you know of your rights under state law. We can connect you with, financial assistance, or, file a complaint to that utility on your behalf. So if you need any sort of utility related question answered, the CUB hotline is a great place to start as well. That third bullet there, if you wanted your utility bills assessed by a CUB staff member, you could actually email those bills to that email address, ubc@citizensutilityboard.org, and a CUB staff member will actually reach out and either schedule a video call or an email, depending on your preference, and we can go over your bills and we can highlight, or we can go over your bills with you so you know how to understand them, how to spot any sort of red flags, and we can also recommend any sort of energy saving programs or money saving recommendations as well. And I should mention that that goes beyond energy. So it does include gas and utility, but it also includes telecom as well. And then that last bullet is just the CUB gas and electric guide. So this is a lot more, it's a lot more consumer protections focused. So it has those, what is a deferred payment arrangement? When can you get disconnected? What are your rights? So if you're interested in reading about that, that guide is available, but I'm also available to answer questions. So. All right, thank you so much.
Thanks, Cynthia. And we'll make sure to share this deck. Thanks for those hanging on a couple extra minutes. Thanks, Cynthia, for covering so much content there for us. So here's all our contact information. I'll keep this up for a second. Feel free to reach out to any of us and we can share this deck or with IEC. I think we have already, if this can go out to attendees today, or email any one of us and we can share it that way too. So you can access all the links that are embedded. So just want to give a big thanks to my fellow presenters, Nick and Cynthia, to all of you for attending, and for Illinois Environmental Council for hosting us today.
Yeah, and thank you, Nick, Cynthia, and Laura for presenting and also being awesome at handling questions at the same time. It was really great to have you all join us today. And yeah, we'll send out a recording to folks that attended.
Thanks, everyone.